Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with your heart racing, feeling lightheaded, and wondering what just happened? It's not just a nightmare or stress. It might be something far more dangerous, quietly triggered by what you ate just a few hours earlier. You see, many of us, especially as we get older, enjoy a handful of mixed nuts before bed. They're crunchy, tasty, and they seem like a healthy choice, right? But what if I told you that some of those seemingly harmless snacks could quietly mess with your blood pressure, your blood flow, even your brain, while you sleep? I know it sounds hard to believe. You've probably heard for years that nuts are good for your heart, your cholesterol, your overall health. And yes, that can be true, when you eat them at the right time and in the right amount. But late at night? That's a whole different story, especially for those of us over 60. In this video, we're going to explore something that isn't talked about enough: how certain types of nuts can quietly become a silent threat, disrupting your blood vessels, increasing your blood pressure, and even raising your risk of stroke during the night. So, if you're someone who keeps a snack bowl by the recliner, or reaches for that healthy mix of nuts before your evening TV time, you're going to want to watch this until the very end. And hey, before we dive in, let me ask you this. If you ever eat nuts before bed, type 1 in the comments. If not, just drop a 0. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay connected with Health 365. Now let's start with one nut that might surprise you the most. Now, let's turn our attention to pecan nuts. Rich, buttery, and often a star in holiday desserts, they seem like a comforting treat, don't they? But having them late at night, especially on a regular basis, could quietly be doing damage that builds up over time. Here's why. Pecans are loaded with saturated fat and calories. Just a small handful packs more than 200 calories and a hefty dose of fats that aren't so heart-friendly. Now, during the day, your body has time and energy to process and burn through those fats. But at night, your metabolism slows down, your blood flow slows, and those fats, they tend to stick around in your bloodstream longer than they should. The result? Your blood becomes thicker, more sluggish, and that's not just uncomfortable, it's risky. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that consuming high saturated fat snacks late in the day can increase blood viscosity, literally making your blood thicker, especially in older adults. This thicker blood flows more slowly through your vessels, and when you're lying still in bed for hours, that slow flow becomes a perfect setup for clot formation. And yet, it's such an easy habit to fall into. A few pecans before bed, maybe sprinkled on yogurt or straight from the bag. It feels harmless. But if this becomes a nightly ritual, the risk adds up, quietly. So what should you do instead? If you love pecans, and let's be honest, who doesn't? Try saving them for the morning. Pair them with oatmeal or a smoothie when your body is primed to digest and move. You'll still get their flavor and benefits without the silent nighttime danger. Coming up next, there's a tiny nut that's rich in omega-6 and sounds healthy, but might be setting your blood vessels up for trouble. Let's take a look. Pine nuts. These little guys are often sprinkled on salads or blended into pesto, and they carry a rich, buttery flavor that feels gourmet. But there's something hidden inside them that could spell trouble for your blood vessels, especially if you're eating them regularly before bed. The issue lies in their high omega-6 fatty acid content. While omega-6 is an essential fatty acid, meaning our bodies need it, we're supposed to balance it with omega-3s, the kind you get from fish like salmon. The problem is, most of us get far too much omega-6 and not nearly enough omega-3, and pine nuts only tip the scale even further in the wrong direction. Why does that matter? Because when omega-6s dominate, they promote inflammation in your blood vessels, and not just the temporary kind, This can lead to chronic vascular inflammation, which quietly weakens the walls of your arteries over time. A study from the Journal of Lipid Research showed that diets high in omega-6 fatty acids are associated with increased markers of vascular inflammation, especially dangerous for older adults whose arteries are already more fragile. That kind of long-term inflammation can make your blood vessels brittle and more prone to damage, even rupture. Imagine your blood vessels like garden hoses. When they're strong and flexible, water flows easily. But if the hose gets dry, cracked, and stiff, pressure builds, and suddenly, snap. That's essentially what's happening inside your body when chronic inflammation weakens your vascular walls. Add a sudden increase in blood pressure during the night, say from stress, dehydration, or another salty snack. And that's a recipe for a serious event, like a stroke. What's the safer move? If you love the taste of pine nuts, enjoy them occasionally and earlier in the day. And balance them with foods rich in omega-3s, like flaxseed or wild-caught fish. Avoid making them a bedtime staple. Let's move forward, because the next nut sounds innocent enough, but its effect on your blood vessels might catch you off guard. Hazelnuts. They're often associated with sweet treats. Think chocolate spreads or holiday desserts. But many health-conscious folks also snack on plain roasted hazelnuts, thinking they're a heart-smart option. And yes, in moderation and during the right time of day, they can be. But eating them before bed? That's where the red flags start to appear, especially if you've got sensitive blood vessels or unstable blood pressure. The concern with hazelnuts comes from their high arginine content. Arginine is an amino acid that promotes the production of nitric oxide in the body. Nitric oxide is what helps our blood vessels relax and widen, improving blood flow. Sounds like a good thing, right? But here's where it gets tricky, especially for older adults. When your vascular system is already delicate or compromised due to age or high blood pressure, too much vasodilation at the wrong time can backfire. Your blood vessels may expand too rapidly or unevenly, leading to what doctors call vascular instability. That can result in sudden drops or spikes in blood pressure, or in more serious cases, cause small capillaries to rupture, especially the tiny ones in the brain or eyes. A clinical review in the journal Hypertension Research noted that individuals with fragile vascular systems, particularly seniors, are more prone to microvascular complications when exposed to high levels of vasodilating agents like arginine during rest periods. So what should you do if you enjoy hazelnuts? Try moving them to earlier in the day. Let your body process that arginine when you're active and your cardiovascular system is more stable. And if you've got a history of hypertension or vascular fragility, talk to your doctor before making nuts a daily habit, especially at night. Next up, there's one snack mix that seems healthy and convenient, but might be packing a combo punch to your heart and brain while you sleep. Let's dive in. Trail mix seems like a healthy bedtime snack. Nuts for protein, dried fruits for sweetness. But most store-bought versions are far from harmless. They often contain high levels of salt, sugar, and preservatives, and that combination can silently stress your heart while you sleep. First, the sodium content. It causes fluid retention, which increases blood volume and leads to higher blood pressure. Your heart works harder, especially during the night when it's supposed to rest. Then comes the sugar, particularly from sweetened dried fruits. Sugar fuels vascular inflammation, weakening the lining of your arteries. The combination of high blood pressure and inflammation sets the stage for clot formation. A study in Circulation found that high sodium and sugar intake directly contributes to vascular stiffness and increased clot risk, especially in older adults. And during sleep, when blood flow slows, clots are more likely to form and travel, raising the risk of stroke or heart attack. Imagine your bloodstream as a nighttime highway. Traffic should be light and smooth. But with excess sodium and sugar in your system, that highway becomes congested and sticky, making it far more likely that platelets will clump together and form clots. And clots, as you know, can lead to strokes or heart attacks. Most commercial trail mixes contain over 150 milligrams of sodium and 12 grams of sugar per small serving. But let's be honest, who eats just one serving? A few extra handfuls, and you've exceeded what your heart can safely handle, especially before bed. So what's the safer route? Make your own trail mix at home. Use unsalted nuts, unsweetened dried fruits, and skip the candies. Even better, save it for earlier in the day when your body can handle the extra load without risking your nighttime circulation. Next, let's talk about a nut that's likely already in your pantry. Crunchy, salty, and surprisingly risky if eaten after dark. A favorite snack in many American households: salted roasted almonds. Crunchy, savory, and easy to eat by the handful, especially while watching TV in the evening. But this seemingly healthy snack can quietly raise your nighttime blood pressure, increasing your risk of stroke while you sleep. The main culprit here is sodium. Salted almonds are often heavily seasoned, and just 1 ounce can contain up to 150–200 millimegawords of sodium. That might not sound like much, but if you're snacking mindlessly, the numbers add up fast. And for adults over 60, especially those managing high blood pressure, even a modest increase in sodium can be harmful. Here's what happens. Sodium causes your body to retain water, increasing the volume of blood circulating through your vessels. This pushes against artery walls, raising pressure levels. While your body is supposed to relax and repair during sleep, high sodium keeps your cardiovascular system on high alert. Your heart works harder, and the stress on your vessels grows. A study in the Journal of Clinical Hypertension confirmed that even moderate sodium intake before bed leads to significant nighttime blood pressure elevation, particularly in older adults. And the risk isn't just numbers on a chart. Sustained high pressure at night increases the chances of silent strokes or early morning cardiovascular events. Think of it this way. Your arteries are like hoses. At night, they're supposed to experience low, gentle flow. But with excess sodium in the system, it's like cranking the pressure up while the hose is still and coiled. Eventually, something has to give. So what's the better move? If you enjoy almonds, opt for unsalted or lightly salted versions and have them earlier in the day. Your heart and brain will thank you. Now that we've covered the major troublemakers, let's turn our attention to one more unexpected snack that many seniors enjoy without a second thought: pistachios. While they may seem harmless, there's something important you need to know. Pistachios, another nut that feels like a guilt-free snack. They're light, fun to crack open, and often marketed as heart-healthy. But when eaten late at night, they can quietly stir up problems for your cardiovascular system, especially if you're over 60. Pistachios are naturally high in arginine, an amino acid that, much like in hazelnuts, stimulates nitric oxide production. This causes blood vessels to relax and widen. During the day, that can support circulation. But at night, this effect may become destabilizing, especially for older adults with vascular fragility or inconsistent blood pressure. When your blood vessels relax too much while you're resting, it can trigger blood pressure drops, followed by a rebound increase in heart rate or pressure. This back and forth can place unnecessary stress on your cardiovascular system, disrupting sleep and potentially raising stroke risk. A study in the American Journal of Physiology showed that high nighttime nitric oxide activity in older adults could lead to irregular blood pressure regulation and reduced cerebral blood flow. Plus, most people don't eat raw, unsalted pistachios. Store-bought varieties are often salted and roasted, doubling down on the sodium load. Just one serving can contain over 120 milligrams of sodium, and as with other salted snacks, it's easy to exceed healthy limits without realizing it. Imagine your body like a seesaw at bedtime. You need balance and calm. But pistachios, between the arginine-induced vessel changes and added sodium, can throw that balance off, making your heart work harder just when it's supposed to rest. So, if you love pistachios, the good news is you don't have to give them up. Choose unsalted versions and enjoy them as a mid-morning or afternoon snack when your body is more prepared to handle the effects. Avoid making them a bedtime routine. As we continue uncovering the truth behind so-called healthy snacks, there's one more nut that often escapes scrutiny: walnuts. Touted as brain food, they may carry risks many seniors don't realize. Walnuts often come with a golden health halo. Rich in omega-3s, antioxidants, and plant-based nutrients, they're praised for brain health and heart protection. But when it comes to snacking on them before bed, especially for older adults, there are some important nuances you should know. Unlike some other nuts, walnuts are high in polyunsaturated fats, particularly alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a plant-based omega-3. During the day, ALA helps reduce inflammation and supports cardiovascular health, but at night, your body processes fats differently. Your metabolism slows, your digestive system rests, and fats stay in your bloodstream longer, especially in older adults whose lipid metabolism may already be slower. Here's where it gets tricky. A study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that consuming high-fat foods, even healthy fats, before bed can increase nocturnal triglyceride levels. Elevated nighttime triglycerides can disrupt your body's natural blood flow regulation and raise your risk of arterial stiffness over time. The body is simply not as efficient at clearing fats while you sleep. There's another layer. Some people experience acid reflux or indigestion when they eat high-fat foods late, including walnuts. This can interfere with sleep quality and even cause a spike in nighttime cortisol, a stress hormone that affects both blood pressure and heart rhythm. And let's not forget that store-bought walnuts are often packaged with added salt or sugars, which only increase the cardiovascular burden. A handful before bed might seem harmless, but if it's salted or honey roasted, you're adding sodium and sugar on top of slow-digesting fats. So, what's the takeaway? Walnuts are absolutely a heart-healthy food, but they're best enjoyed earlier in the day, like with breakfast or lunch. This way, your body can use their nutrients effectively while avoiding the nighttime stress on your cardiovascular and digestive systems. Stick around because we're almost at the end, and I've got a few parting thoughts to help tie all this together. So, now you know. Some of our favorite nighttime snacks might not be as innocent as they seem. But don't worry. This isn't about giving up the foods you love. It's about timing and being gentle with your body, especially when it needs rest the most. Our hearts work hard for us every day, and the choices we make, even small ones like a handful of nuts before bed, can either support or strain that effort. By making a few simple changes, like enjoying these snacks earlier in the day or choosing unsalted versions, you're taking a powerful step toward protecting your brain, your blood vessels, and your sleep. And here's the beautiful part. Your body responds. Even small shifts in habits can lead to better energy, steadier blood pressure, and a lower risk of those scary surprises during the night. You might be doing everything right, eating well, staying active, and exercising regularly. But what if I told you that some common workouts could quietly increase your risk of stroke? Yes, even exercises that look safe, like sit-ups, planks, or yoga, can turn dangerous if you're over 60 and not careful. It's not about avoiding movement. It's about knowing which movements to watch out for. As we age, our bodies respond differently. blood pressure shifts faster, balance isn't as reliable, and certain motions can strain your brain, blood vessels, or heart more than you realize. A quick bend, a wrong twist, or even holding your breath during a workout. These things can trigger dizziness, sudden drops in blood pressure, or worse, a stroke. I've seen too many seniors fall victim to this. People who thought they were being healthy. That's why today, I want to walk you through 9 specific exercises that may be putting your brain and body at risk, especially if you have high blood pressure or poor circulation. If you're over 60 or care about someone who is, this video could be a lifesaver. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever felt dizzy or lightheaded after a workout? And don't forget to subscribe to Health 365. We're here to help you move safer, feel stronger, and stay independent for years to come. Now, let's start with the first hidden danger, an everyday stretch that seems harmless, but could cause sudden drops in blood pressure. Let's start with something incredibly common, bending forward quickly from a standing position. You know, maybe to pick something up off the floor, or to tie your shoe in a rush. It seems like no big deal, right? But for older adults, this one simple movement can lead to a dangerous chain reaction inside the body. When you bend forward fast, especially without bracing yourself or bending your knees, blood rushes to your head very suddenly. In younger people, the body adjusts pretty quickly. But as we age, our cardiovascular system doesn't compensate as fast. That sudden change can cause a quick drop in blood pressure, what doctors call orthostatic hypotension. The result? You feel dizzy, lightheaded, or completely lose your balance. Some people black out entirely. And if you hit your head on the way down, the danger becomes even greater. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that older adults are significantly more prone to blood pressure drops after rapid positional changes. This isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a known risk factor for stroke and head injury. I remember talking with a gentleman who tripped in his garage while reaching for a box. He bent forward too fast, got dizzy, fell, and ended up with a concussion. All from what seemed like an everyday movement. Here's what you can do. When you need to bend forward, always take a second. Plant your feet firmly, bend your knees slightly, and come down slowly. Use a stable surface for support if you need it. There's absolutely no shame in that. Now, let's move gently from the floor to something just a bit higher up, your neck. Because what you do with it might surprise you even more. Have you ever tried to loosen up a stiff neck by giving it a quick twist or turning it side to side rapidly? It might feel good in the moment, like you're shaking off tension, but it can be much more dangerous than you think. You see, inside your neck run 2 very important arteries called the vertebral arteries. They supply blood directly to the brain, particularly the parts that control balance and coordination. When you whip your neck around too quickly, or do it repeatedly, especially in a strong or exaggerated way, you can actually compress or even slightly tear those arteries. That's not just uncomfortable. It can severely reduce the flow of oxygen-rich blood to your brain. There was a case reported in the New England Journal of Medicine where a man in his 60s experienced a stroke just minutes after rapidly twisting his neck during a stretching routine. It wasn't during a car accident or a fall. It was during a stretch. That's how delicate these vessels can be as we age. I met a woman at a senior center who used to do daily neck rolls first thing every morning. After a few weeks, she noticed she was getting dizzy spells and even blurred vision. Her doctor traced it back to those movements. She switched to gentler, slower head turns, and the symptoms disappeared. So here's the better way. Always move your head slowly and deliberately. No jerking, no snapping motions. If your neck feels stiff, apply warm compresses, gentle stretches, or even better, get it checked by a physical therapist who understands age-related vascular risks. Ready to hear about something many people think is making them stronger, but could be straining their brain instead? Let's talk weights. Weightlifting can be a fantastic way to stay strong and independent as we age, but only if it's done safely. One of the most overlooked dangers is lifting weights that are too heavy, or worse, holding your breath while doing it. When you lift something heavy and instinctively hold your breath, what's called the Valsalva maneuver, you're actually spiking the pressure inside your chest and head. Your blood pressure can shoot up rapidly, placing intense strain on the arteries in your brain. For older adults, especially those with high blood pressure or weaker blood vessels, that spike can be enough to trigger a stroke or even cause a vessel to rupture. In fact, a study from the American Heart Association showed that sudden blood pressure surges during heavy lifting were linked to an increased risk of intracranial hemorrhages, particularly in older gym-goers. I once heard from a retired firefighter who was staying active at his local gym. One day, he decided to challenge himself with a heavier barbell. Mid-lift, he felt a rush to his head, got dizzy, and nearly blacked out. His doctor later told him he had dangerously spiked his blood pressure by holding his breath under strain. So here's what you should do. Lift weights that feel challenging but manageable. Breathe continuously. Exhale as you lift. Inhale as you lower. And if you're unsure, always work with a trainer who understands how aging bodies respond differently. Now, if you've ever tried those upside-down yoga poses for better circulation, the next part might surprise you even more. Upside-down yoga poses like the shoulder stand or headstand might look graceful and relaxing, but they can be seriously risky, especially for older adults. These poses flip your entire body, sending a rush of blood toward your head. While some people claim it boosts circulation, the truth is, it can dangerously increase pressure inside your skull. When you're in an inverted position, the blood flow to your brain intensifies, and if you already have high blood pressure or weaker blood vessels, which is more common after age 60, that extra pressure can overwhelm your system. The risk isn't just theoretical. Neurologists have documented cases where seniors experienced vision disturbances, severe headaches, and even mini-strokes after attempting inverted poses without supervision. I remember a woman from a yoga class who proudly practiced shoulder stands every morning. But after a few weeks, she started getting pounding headaches and felt pressure behind her eyes. Her doctor warned her. The increased intracranial pressure from those poses was putting her at real risk. She switched to gentler stretches and noticed the symptoms disappeared. Instead of poses that flip you upside down, try legs up the wall. It's a calming alternative that supports circulation without the danger. And always let your instructor know about any medical conditions before starting a new routine. They can suggest modifications that work with your body, not against it. Now that we've looked at the risks of going upside down, let's take a jog forward. Literally. Because when you exercise matters just as much as how you do it. Evening workouts can feel peaceful. The gym is quieter, the air cooler, and it's a great way to shake off the day's stress. But for older adults, pushing yourself too hard late at night, especially with intense routines like high-speed running or HIIT, can backfire in serious ways. Here's why. Intense exercise stimulates your sympathetic nervous system, which is like flipping the body's on switch. That's fine during the day, but doing it too close to bedtime means your heart rate stays elevated, your blood pressure spikes, and your body stays in a state of alertness, exactly when it should be winding down. For people over 60, this late-night pressure can increase the risk of nighttime hypertension, a known factor in stroke while sleeping. A study from hypertension research found that late-evening high-intensity workouts can raise nighttime blood pressure levels significantly, even in healthy adults. That's why doctors now often recommend morning or early afternoon workouts for older individuals. I spoke with a retired teacher who used to run every night after dinner. Over time, she noticed she wasn't sleeping well, and once she even woke up dizzy with a racing heart. Her cardiologist suggested switching her routine to earlier in the day, and the change made a world of difference. If you enjoy nighttime movement, opt for gentle stretching, slow walks, or calming yoga. Save the cardio for the daylight hours when your body is better equipped to handle it. Next up, let's focus on something small but powerful: your core. And no, it's not about getting a six-pack. Crunches and sit-ups. Those classic core exercises many of us have done for decades. They might seem like a straightforward way to strengthen your midsection, but for older adults, doing them too quickly or too often can cause more harm than good. When you perform rapid abdominal movements, especially without proper breathing, it creates a sudden spike in pressure inside your chest and abdomen. This can interfere with normal blood flow, especially to the brain. It's a bit like squeezing a garden hose. The flow gets restricted, and that momentary pressure can affect your circulation in surprising ways. Researchers from the American Journal of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation found that rapid abdominal exercises in older adults can lead to decreased cerebral blood flow, particularly when done without rest between sets. That drop in oxygen to the brain can leave you feeling dizzy, disoriented, or even faint. A gentleman I met at a local wellness class shared how he felt lightheaded every time he did sit-ups during his morning routine. His doctor explained that the pressure from quick crunches was disrupting blood flow to his head. He swapped them out for slower core movements and hasn't had a dizzy spell since. So, what's the safer option? Try controlled core exercises like pelvic tilts or seated marches. Focus on steady breathing. Exhale with effort. Inhale on release. And never rush the motion. Now that we've grounded ourselves with the core, let's step onto the treadmill, but with a word of caution before you press that speed button. Using a treadmill seems like a safe, weather-proof way to stay fit. But for seniors, there's one common mistake that turns this tool into a serious hazard: running too fast without holding on to the side rails. As we get older, our reaction time slows, and coordination isn't what it used to be. Moving fast on a treadmill without support increases the risk of stumbling, sometimes with devastating results. A single misstep can send you flying, leading to painful injuries like fractures, head injuries, or in high-risk individuals, even triggering cardiovascular strain or stroke. Health agencies, including data from the NIH, have highlighted that seniors suffer a higher rate of treadmill accidents than any other age group. And one major factor? Not using the handrails. In fact, even brief moments of unsteady movement while running can sharply raise heart strain, especially in adults over 60. I recall a man in his 70s who insisted on jogging hands-free every morning. One day, a minor slip turned major. He hit the deck hard and left the gym with a head injury. His physician later said that simply gripping the rails, even occasionally, would likely have kept him on his feet. So, what's the smarter approach? Keep your pace steady, not fast. And if you feel the slightest imbalance, grab the rails. Want an effective alternative? Walk at an incline. You'll get the cardio boost without risking a dangerous fall. Coming up next, we're switching gears. This time, it's not speed that's the problem. It's stillness. Let's talk about the plank. Planks are praised as one of the best full-body exercises. They build strength, improve posture, and don't require any equipment. But holding a plank too long, especially while holding your breath, can quietly place dangerous pressure on your cardiovascular system. When you're in a plank, your muscles are working hard to stabilize your entire body. That effort increases intra-abdominal and intrathoracic pressure, basically, pressure inside your belly and chest. If you're also holding your breath, which many people do without realizing it, you cut off a steady flow of oxygen and raise your blood pressure at the same time. It's like tightening a valve that your heart has to push against. The Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research published findings showing that breath holding during isometric exercises like planks caused significant spikes in systolic blood pressure, even in fit older adults. Over time, or even during a single long hold, this can stress your heart and reduce blood flow to the brain. I remember a neighbor who loved challenging herself with long plank holds. She'd time herself, aiming for 2 minutes or more. But she started experiencing chest tightness and headaches after each session. Once she started taking slower breaths and cutting her time in half, those symptoms stopped completely. So if you enjoy planks, great. Just modify them. Aim for shorter durations with proper breathing. Try 20-30-second holds with deep, steady inhales and exhales. And always listen to your body. Now we'll shift gears a bit and stand back up, because the next movement involves something you probably do every day without thinking twice. Standing up and sitting down sounds simple enough. It's something we all do dozens of times a day. But doing it too quickly, especially in repetition, like during squats, can catch your body off guard and lead to a sudden drop in blood pressure. This phenomenon is called postural hypotension, and it's especially common in older adults. When you change positions quickly, your blood needs to adjust to the shift in gravity. For younger people, the body reacts almost instantly. But as we age, that adjustment slows down. Your brain may not get enough blood fast enough, leaving you feeling dizzy, wobbly, or worse, causing a fall. It's not about how strong your legs are. It's how your cardiovascular system keeps up with movement. A study in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that older adults who frequently changed positions rapidly were significantly more likely to report dizziness and were at greater risk for falls resulting in head injuries or fractures. A friend of mine once added fast-paced squats to his morning routine, thinking it would help him stay agile. But he started having dizzy spells that left him unsteady for the rest of the day. Once he slowed things down, taking a moment to pause between movements, his symptoms disappeared. Here's a safer approach. When doing sit-to-stand exercises or squats, rise slowly. Take a breath. Let your body catch up before moving again. Hold on to a sturdy chair or surface if needed. Balance is your friend, not a sign of weakness. Now that we've explored all these hidden dangers, let's take a deep breath together and wrap things up with something just as important: hope. So here we are, having walked through the quiet risks that can hide in even the most common exercises. It's not about fear, it's about awareness, about respecting the changes our bodies go through, and about learning how to move with care and confidence. Staying active is one of the best gifts you can give yourself. But as we get older, the goal shifts from pushing harder to moving smarter. Every step, every breath, every stretch can be a celebration of life, if done with intention. You don't need to keep up with younger folks or push past your limits. You just need to listen to your body and honor it. I hope this video helped you see your daily routines in a new light. Maybe you recognized some habits in yourself or in someone you care about. That awareness is the first step towards safer, stronger movement. And if one simple change keeps you safe, upright, and thriving, that's a win worth everything. So let's keep showing up for ourselves. Let's keep learning, adjusting, and choosing health every day. Every year, millions of seniors go in for routine checkups, thinking they're doing the right thing. But what if I told you, some of these very tests might actually raise your risk of stroke overnight? It sounds hard to believe, doesn't it? You trust your doctor. You follow every recommendation. But buried in the fine print of modern medicine are silent risks that no one warns you about. Not the news, not the brochures in your clinic. And sometimes, not even your doctor. Imagine walking out of your annual checkup, thinking everything is fine, only to experience dizziness, blurred vision, or worse, just days later. And you're left wondering, what just happened? Here's the truth. Certain diagnostic tests, especially when done too often or under certain health conditions, may quietly trigger sudden spikes in blood pressure, disrupt blood flow, and even set off a chain reaction that can end in a stroke. But don't worry. This video isn't here to scare you. It's here to inform you, so you can ask better questions, so you can protect yourself and your loved ones. Because after the age of 60, it's not just about catching problems early, it's about avoiding the ones we might accidentally cause. In the next few minutes, we'll uncover the 5 most common medical tests that may carry hidden stroke risks, especially for seniors. And more importantly, you'll learn exactly how to protect yourself before your next appointment. If you're over 60, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, drop a 0. And make sure to subscribe to Health 365, where we uncover what others won't tell you. Now, let's talk about the first test you should think twice about. Now, if you've ever had a CT scan with contrast, you might remember that warm, flushed feeling spreading through your body. That's the contrast dye doing its job, helping your doctor see your blood vessels, organs, and tissues more clearly. Sounds helpful, right? But here's what many seniors are never told. That little injection can do much more than just enhance the images. It can quietly put stress on your cardiovascular system, especially if you're over 60 and already dealing with high blood pressure, heart problems, or kidney issues. For some people, the contrast dye triggers a vasovagal reaction, a sudden drop in both heart rate and blood pressure. This can lead to dizziness, nausea, fainting, or even brief unconsciousness. But in other cases, the opposite happens. Blood pressure spikes rapidly, and fragile blood vessels can tighten or go into spasm. When that happens, the risk of a stroke or cardiac event quietly creeps in. A study in the Journal of Vascular and Interventional Radiology found that older adults who underwent contrast-enhanced CT scans had a significantly higher rate of vascular complications within 72 hours, especially those with a history of hypertension, cardiovascular disease, or impaired kidney function. In short, the more vulnerable your system, the more dangerous that contrast dye could become. Let me share a real case. An 81-year-old man went in for a routine abdominal CT scan after having some minor digestive discomfort. The scan came back normal, and he was sent home feeling fine. But 2 days later, he suffered a minor stroke. The likely cause? The contrast injection may have temporarily spiked his blood pressure, causing a clot to form and block blood flow to part of his brain. This doesn't mean CT scans with contrast are bad. Far from it. They can detect cancers, blood clots, aneurysms, things that could save your life. But the key point is this. These scans should be used wisely, not just ordered as part of a routine checkup just in case. So what can you do to protect yourself? Before agreeing to a CT scan with contrast, ask your doctor, is this scan essential, or is there a safer option for someone my age and condition? Share your full history, especially if you have high blood pressure, kidney disease, heart conditions, previous reactions to contrast dye or medications, and always ask, can we do this without contrast? Sometimes a non-contrast CT or an ultrasound can provide enough detail without the added risk. Coming up next, a common screening many seniors get, even when they feel perfectly fine, that may not be as harmless as it seems. Now, let's talk about the stress test, also called the exercise stress test. On paper, it sounds like a smart move. Put on a heart monitor, walk on a treadmill, and see how your heart performs under pressure. But if you're over 60, Especially with high blood pressure or heart conditions, this simple test could turn risky. Here's why. During the test, you're asked to walk or even jog on a treadmill while your heart is closely monitored. But as the speed increases, your heart rate shoots up, your blood pressure rises, and your cardiovascular system is suddenly under intense strain. For a healthy 30-year-old, this might not be a problem. But for seniors, especially those with pre-existing conditions, it can be like lighting a fire near dry brush, potentially triggering serious complications. Some of the risks: dangerous spikes in blood pressure, sudden arrhythmias, irregular heartbeats, and in rare but real cases, small tears in fragile blood vessels, especially in the brain. A 2020 study in the American Journal of Cardiology looked at over 1,300 patients above age 65 who underwent treadmill stress tests. The results? Nearly 7% experienced harmful events during the test, including blood pressure surges and abnormal heart rhythms. And the most affected group? Those who already had vascular issues. And this isn't just theory. It's real life. One of our subscribers, Margaret from Ohio, shared her story. She's 74 and has had high blood pressure for years. Her doctor recommended a stress test just to check in. Halfway through the treadmill portion, she began to feel dizzy and had tightness in her chest. They stopped the test immediately, but by the next day, she suffered a minor stroke. Doctors believe a sudden rise in her blood pressure during the test ruptured a tiny vessel in her brain. To be clear, the test didn't directly cause the stroke, but it introduced stress to an already vulnerable system. And that's what tipped the scale. So, what's the real takeaway? Talk to your doctor. Ask, is there a safer way to evaluate my heart? In many cases, a nuclear stress test, which uses medication to simulate exercise, or a resting echocardiogram may be safer options for seniors. And if you're not currently experiencing symptoms like chest pain, shortness of breath, or fatigue, ask whether the test is truly necessary right now, or if it can wait. Coming up next, we'll explore another routine test that seems harmless, but could come with hidden risks if you're not cautious. Let's now talk about something that's become incredibly routine, especially after 60. The endoscopy. Whether it's to check your esophagus, your stomach, or even your colon, doctors often recommend it just to be safe. And sometimes that makes sense. But here's what no one tells you. If you don't really need it, and especially if it involves sedation, it might do more harm than good. For starters, most people over 60 are on some kind of medication. Blood thinners like warfarin, aspirin, or Plavix are extremely common. And when you're sedated for an endoscopy, your blood pressure and circulation naturally change. Combine that with medications that affect your blood's ability to clot, and suddenly you're looking at a higher risk for internal bleeding, or worse, brain circulation problems that can trigger a silent stroke. In 2021, a large-scale review published in the journal Gastrointestinal Endoscopy found that among patients over 65 who underwent sedated endoscopy procedures, there was a significant increase in transient ischemic attacks, TIAs, also known as mini-strokes, within the following 72 hours. These weren't major strokes, but they were warning signs that something had gone wrong in the brain's blood flow. One case that stuck with me was from a 76-year-old woman who had a routine colonoscopy with sedation. She had no symptoms going in, but 2 days later, she started slurring her speech and lost coordination. The ER confirmed she had experienced a mild stroke. The doctors believed the drop in blood pressure during sedation, along with her daily aspirin use, may have created just the right conditions for a clot to travel. Even if the procedure itself is low risk, the combination of sedation, age, and medications can create a perfect storm. Now, this doesn't mean you should avoid all endoscopies, but it does mean Don't agree to one unless your doctor can clearly explain why you need it right now. If you're just getting it because it's been a few years, ask if there's a safer way to monitor your condition, especially if you have no symptoms. Always remind your doctor about any medications you're on. Ask them, will I need to stop my blood thinner before this? What are the risks of sedation for someone like me? And if you're uncomfortable with sedation, ask if the procedure can be done without it, or with lighter options. Next, we're going to talk about another test that often flies under the radar, but it's one that involves something many of us never even think about: the kidneys. MRIs are powerful tools. They help doctors see deep into your body, spot early signs of trouble, and sometimes avoid unnecessary surgeries. But when a contrast dye is added, usually to get clearer images, that's when caution is needed, especially for older adults, and especially for those with even mild kidney problems. The contrast dye used in MRIs often contains gadolinium, a heavy metal. It doesn't stay in the body. It's meant to be flushed out by your kidneys. But here's the catch. After 60, kidney function naturally slows down. And if you already have chronic kidney disease or reduced function that hasn't been diagnosed yet, your body may not eliminate the gadolinium as effectively. Over time, small amounts can linger. That lingering can be dangerous. Gadolinium retention has been linked to a rare but serious condition called nephrogenic systemic fibrosis, NSF, which causes hardening and thickening of the skin and connective tissues. In the worst cases, it can limit movement, breathing, and even lead to organ complications. But here's the part most people don't hear about. Retained gadolinium has also been found in brain tissue, and some researchers believe it may cause subtle neurological symptoms like confusion, dizziness, and disorientation, particularly in people already at risk for circulatory issues. A study published in Radiology in 2019 tracked over 2,000 patients over 65 who received contrast-enhanced MRIs. Within a week of the procedure, about 5% reported stroke-like symptoms, headaches, blurred vision, balance problems. These weren't full-blown strokes, but they were red flags. Most of these patients also had underlying kidney issues, whether diagnosed or not. Harold, a 79-year-old veteran from Arizona, went in for an MRI after struggling with persistent back pain. His doctor ordered it with contrast, just to be thorough. Harold had no idea his kidneys were weakened. 2 days after the scan, he felt lightheaded, weak, and mentally foggy, symptoms that lingered for nearly a week. It wasn't until his primary care doctor ran labs that they discovered he had stage 3 kidney disease. "No one warned me," he told us. "Had I known, I would have asked more questions." So here's what you can do. If your doctor recommends a contrast MRI, ask, "Can we do it without the contrast?" Often, the answer is yes. If contrast is truly necessary, request a kidney function test first. It's a simple blood test called a GFR, and it can give your doctor and you peace of mind. Also, let them know if you've ever had strange reactions to imaging tests in the past. Remember, the MRI itself isn't the problem. It's the extra chemical your body may not handle well. With the right precautions, you can still get the answers you need without putting your brain or kidneys at risk. Next, let's turn our attention to a test that seems harmless, even smart to do on a regular basis. But it may be steering older adults toward risky surgeries they never actually needed. The routine carotid artery ultrasound. It's non-invasive, takes just a few minutes, and doesn't involve any needles, dyes, or machines that make loud noises. Sounds like the perfect preventive test, right? But here's what most people over 60 don't know. If you don't have symptoms, and your doctor is just ordering this scan to check, this simple test might lead you down a path to surgery you never needed in the first place. The carotid arteries are the main blood vessels that deliver blood to your brain. Over time, like many vessels in the body, they can develop plaque, little buildups of cholesterol or calcium. That's normal, especially as we age. But not every bit of plaque needs to be removed. In fact, in many cases, it's safer to monitor it than to operate. Here's where things can go wrong. Let's say you get the test, and it shows some narrowing in the artery, maybe 50% or even 60%. That sounds scary, right? So your doctor refers you to a vascular surgeon, and suddenly you're being told you should consider a procedure, like a carotid endarterectomy or a stent. But if you had no symptoms, no dizziness, no vision changes, no weakness, these procedures might offer little benefit, and they carry real risks. In fact, a major study published in the New England Journal of Medicine followed over 3,000 seniors who had moderate carotid narrowing but no symptoms. The researchers found that in many cases, surgery did not reduce stroke risk significantly more than medication and lifestyle changes. And more troubling, a small percentage of patients who underwent surgery actually experienced strokes as a direct result of the procedure, either during surgery or in recovery. One story that really hits home comes from Helen, 82, from Pennsylvania. She went in for a checkup, felt perfectly fine, and had a carotid ultrasound because her doctor just wanted to be thorough. It showed 65% narrowing. She was sent for surgery within weeks. Sadly, during the procedure, she suffered a small stroke. She survived, but now lives with partial weakness on her right side. She told us, "I wish I'd known that doing nothing might have been safer." So, what should you do? If your doctor suggests a carotid ultrasound and you have no symptoms, ask, "What are we looking for? And what happens if we find it?" Make sure you understand whether the scan is likely to change your treatment or simply cause worry. If you're already on blood pressure meds, cholesterol drugs, and living a healthy lifestyle, extra tests may not change much. And if you've already had a scan that showed some narrowing, don't panic. Ask about repeat scans instead of jumping to surgery. And always get a second opinion before undergoing any vascular procedure. Let's wrap this up with some warm advice and a gentle reminder that your health is in your hands. So here's the bottom line. Not every test is dangerous, but not every test is necessary either. Especially after 60, our bodies respond differently. What seems routine, like a contrast dye, sedative, or scan, can have ripple effects we don't always see coming. A simple injection might spike your blood pressure. A scan might trigger a reaction. Even a quick checkup can carry risks if your system is already vulnerable. That's why it's so important to pause, ask questions, and make sure every test fits your health needs, not just a checklist or protocol. You have every right to speak up. To ask, "Is this really essential?" To say, "Can we explore a safer alternative?" Because informed decisions lead to better outcomes and peace of mind. Your health story matters. Your voice matters. And here, we believe every choice should be guided by knowledge, not fear or habit. If you've ever felt strange after a scan or test, or watched a loved one go through something unexpected, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, post a 0. Let's share, connect, and learn together. And if this video helped you feel a little more aware, more in control, or just more curious, subscribe to Health 365. We're here to uncover the truth, ask the hard questions, and always put your well-being first.